they will be culled in a kill switch vaccination program. And the way it will work is likely something like this. First, there will be a planned outbreak, a release of an engineered bioweapon. We saw a practice run for this with the measles outbreak at Disney World a few years ago, which was used to push SB 277, the vaccine mandate in California. Now this will be done on a global scale. An engineered bioweapon will be released in population centers in North America, Asia, Europe, probably South America, and Africa as well. There will be calls for massive government funding of the vaccine industry to come up with a vaccine, and miraculously they will have a vaccine developed in record time. Everyone will be required to line up and take this vaccine shot, except globalists will have something that gives them immunity to what's going into the shot. The shot itself will be formulated to kill people who don't have the cure as a separate injection or perhaps an oral medication. In other words, a pre-immunity to the vaccine bioweapon. So if you are politically connected, if you work for the UN, if you're at the high enough levels of society, you will be given the inoculation against the bioweapon. But if you're not one of those people, you will be part of the group that's targeted for mass culling. The kill switch for humanity. It's a hard kill. Laws will be passed demanding that everyone line up to be injected. People who are not vaccinated will be disallowed from participating in public transportation. You won't be allowed to board an airplane. You may not even be allowed to go to work. You will be denied a bank account or banking services. You will be stripped of your professional licenses if you are a doctor or a nurse or a pharmacist or even a daycare worker. If you refuse to be vaccinated, you will lose your job. This is how they will achieve compliance with perhaps over 90% of the population. Everyone will line up to be injected. And in this injection, they will, of course, feed more bioengineered weapons. There will be viral strains in there with long latency that are programmed to activate perhaps months later after people have carried and spread the viruses to others, including their families, their children, senior citizens, co-workers, and so on. The long latency period, combined with high transmissibility, including the ability to be transmitted through airborne means, will result in perhaps over 95% of the population being exposed to this bioengineered virus. Then the payload arrives. The payload is when the virus reaches criticality in terms of the host cells, and then it begins to shred those cells, ripping them apart, kind of like Ebola, but perhaps not as violent, certainly not as quickly. Incubation periods will be stretched out for many months, remember, for the purpose of allowing it to spread. Once the payload begins to express itself, you will start to see people dying, all in the streets, across all the cities around the world. Once that begins, the media will push a second round of vaccines. That second round of vaccines will be a shorter duration kill switch that will kill people within weeks, not months, perhaps days in certain cases. If you line up to be injected, you will find yourself very likely dead before very long. And this is the whole point. Vaccines have become weaponized. They are a kill switch vector for humanity. Remember, the globalists don't want humans to be around, at least not most of us. They want to depopulate the planet by 90%. Vaccines have been increasingly weaponized. The Catholic bishops, in fact, sent vaccine samples to labs in Africa and found that those vaccines given to young African women in Kenya were laced with infertility chemicals, HCG. These were United Nations vaccines. They were designed to cause widespread infertility and spontaneous abortions in order to reduce the population of Africans.